Hi everyone, this is Linda from Lilybug's Library. Coming to you today with just a wrap up of November. I know we're not quite done, but I'm kind of done with it. So so I figured we'd do that today. So it's as you can probably tell, I'm sick with a cold. Wonderful husband is sick in bed. He's got a fever and the whole bit. So I guess it's finally winter, right? It's not winter till you get a cold. So I got a few books that I've finished over the last week or so. Um, some of them are still nonfiction, but there's a couple of cozies snuck in there too. So one of the ones is was from NetGalley, and thank you to NetGalley and the author and publisher. It comes out on February 6th of next year, and it's called Dear Mom and Dad, and it's written by Patty Davis, who is the daughter of Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan. And I'm sure you remember, but Nancy Reagan's maiden name was Davis. And as Ronald Reagan kind of became president and all of that started to happen, um, excuse me, all of that started to happen, Patty changed her last name to Davis just to try to distance herself a little bit and have a little bit more privacy than what she currently had. So anyway, it was. I'm not. I mean, I'm Canadian. I'm not American, so I'm going to navigate very carefully around the political parts of this book. But I will say it wasn't really about politics. It was about a relationship between a daughter and her parents, and it was very well done. I thought. I know she's written books in the past that she talks about. I haven't read any of them. She expresses some remorse about writing certain things in those books. I mean, she was angry, and it was a very dysfunctional family that she grew up in. So she's now in her, I think she said 70s. So she really had to come to that point in her life where she could handle all of that. And that's a tough thing. So this was a very well written book. She's an excellent writer. I was quite impressed. It was very readable. Really made you feel like you were understanding what happened in her life. And she had a very rocky relationship with her parents. Her father and mother both really preferred to focus on things the way they wanted them to be, not the way that they were. There were many, many things in their lives that they just kind of didn't talk about. You know, if it was something difficult or something not very good, they just kind of swept it under the rug and didn't discuss it. So her father had a great faith, as I'm sure most of you know. He was, a lot of times she said some of her best memories are when they would go out together riding or doing certain things, and she would be able to talk to him alone. And they would discuss his faith and they would discuss the way that he viewed the world. And she was, it still carries a lot of that with her when she thinks of him. And with her mother, it was an incredibly difficult relationship. Her mother could often be very cold, very distant. Patty never really felt like she fit in. Um, Her mother didn't want to think about the fact that her father had been married to Jane Wyman, the actress, years before. So he had two children with her, and occasionally one of them would come to visit, and they weren't treated like one of the family. They were kind of pushed to one side as much as possible. So it was very confusing for her as a young child and even as an adult. And then there were certain things, of course, in his politics later that she disagreed with, and that also caused friction. So it was a very very tough, very complicated sort of relationship. A lot of great quotes in there. I don't know how many things I underlined, but a lot of things she said about dealing with the past. If that's your life, if you have had a complicated relationship with your parents, or with anyone really, and they've passed on, or and you're still dealing with that. She gives a lot of kind of good advice about navigating that in your life, and the fact that that doesn't just go away after they pass away. So anyway, I would highly recommend it. I was, like I said, I'm not American, I'm Canadian, so I didn't have any kind of really preconceived notions about any of it. Hello, Oliver. How are you this morning? And all right, back up. Thank you. You can't steal the spotlight. And so I would definitely give it 5 stars. I thought she did a really great job. And I really learned a lot about her life and her parents, and just about the whole relationship. And I didn't feel like, I felt like she was very truthful without being maligning, like she wasn't hateful about it. She wasn't, uh, like she did it in a very gentle, a gentle way that really struck home with me. Stop. So, so yeah, give it a read. I think it was really good, and no matter what your politics, I think you'll enjoy it. So the next one was 2 parts sugar, 1 part murder. I'm always afraid I'm going to say that the opposite way. And that was by Valerie Burns, and that one was a cozy mystery. So cute. I mean, the cover is adorable, and the book. This is a reminder. John, time to go. Okay, so that was Alexa. This is my morning this morning. Okay, so shows you just how early in the morning it is. So it was about, sorry, I totally lost my train of thought now. Okay, so it was a really cute story. The story was even cuter than the cover. So it involves this woman, Maddie. I'm always afraid I'm going to get their names mixed up because, yeah, I'm sure it was Maddie. And her Aunt Octavia passes, great Aunt Octavia, I believe, passes away and leaves her everything. So she's never actually met her great Aunt Octavia. Maybe when she was a little girl, but I'm not even sure then if she did. But she's grown up kind of in the lap of luxury. Her father is an admiral, and she didn't want for anything, but she also wasn't given any responsibility. So, she has Jimmy Choo shoes, and she has, hasn't really worked a real job, and she's just been allowed to kind of do her thing. So when she gets all this, her Aunt Octavia has left it to her because she wants her to learn kind of to be, have a little more substance, and to really deal better with everything in life. So she left her house, her bake shop, her bakery, and her dog. So her dog is a mastiff, and he's humongous, and his name is Baby. So she gets all of this at once, and with the stipulation that she can't get rid of the house and the bakery until after a year. She has to stay there a year and run it, and then after that she can get rid of it if she still doesn't want it. So in the beginning, everyone's trying to convince her, like, oh yeah, get rid of it, we'll find a way out of this will. And she's like, no, this was given to me, I'm gonna try. And she's very much into social media, so a lot of the book is like hashtag this, hashtag that, and it's like, okay, it's I mean, it's funny, it's cute, and Baby's adorable. He's, she falls in love with him, and he falls in love with her. He's just this, uh, big eating machine and drooling machine, and he's just adorable. So there's one best friend of Aunt Octavia who, most people in the town seem to like her, and it's a great town full of, great characters. But one in particular is her Aunt Octavia's friend, Hannah, who is suffering from Alzheimer's, but she's at the early stages of it. So she has moments of being lucid and everything's fine, and then other moments where she just goes into her own head. So she's saying that Aunt Octavia was killed. Now that's not what the police said. They think that she, I believe, fell down the stairs and died that way. But Hannah is sure that that's not the case. And as people start to die, it starts to look more and more like maybe Hannah was right. So the whole book is very well done. Characters are great. Plot's good, and I really think that you'd enjoy it. Apparently, it's the first one in. Can't remember what the name of the mystery is, but it's first one in a series, and I can't wait for the rest of them. It was really good. So the next one I read was Making It So by Patrick Stewart, and I actually listened to it on Audible, and it's narrated by him, which is terrific because he's got a great voice, and he was the Captain Jean-Luc Picard on Star Trek: The Next Generation. He also played the same character on the series Picard. And way before that, he did, Shakespeare and lots of other things. So he was, like I said, he read or told the story of his life on Audible, and it was very interesting. I wasn't sure when I first started it whether I was gonna like it because really, I mean, I'm a very big Star Trek fan, but he had a lot of life before Star Trek, right? So, I mean, all the stuff about him growing up and being in the Shakespeare Company and all of these sort of things. And, sometimes celebrity biographies or autobiographies are not as interesting as what you might think they're going to be. But his was very interesting, and listening to him tell it was even more interesting because he's got a terrific voice and he put such great inflection in things, and I was just kind of enthralled from the very beginning, so I really enjoyed it. And one of the things that he does say that I'll just give a little peek into it was that he had a very big crush on Vivian Lee, and for good reason. She was incredibly nice to him, and they worked together briefly, and he was young, and it was quite cute to hear him tell about it. And I guess when she it really struck his heart when she passed away because he still had carried a bit of a torch for her, so it was very sweet. So again, I guess I forgot to tell you, with two-part sugar, one-part murder, I would also give that 5 stars, as well as Making It So. It was a great 5-star month, and I'm surprised at that because a lot of them were nonfiction, and I wasn't so sure for a minute there, but those were both really good. So, that being said, the next one was Battle of a Sober Man by J.D. Remy. And that one was about J.D. Remy was an emergency room doctor who was battling with alcoholism, ends up having to go into treatment. And it's the story of the treatment itself and then how he navigates life afterwards. I wasn't as fond of that one. Now, that one starts out with him being in treatment and basically being in a psych ward. And the way he navigates through that and through the DTs and all of that. And then him getting out and starting AA and all of those sort of things. So it was all interesting, but it didn't really um, you didn't really feel what he was feeling. It was too clinical in some ways. Now, as the book goes on, you're probably about 3/4 of the way through it, and then it finally goes backwards a bit, and you get a bit more of a look at how he got to rehab in the first place, like what exactly happened to get him there. And that part was much more interesting to me, kind of seeing how he ended up there. So, certainly a very traumatic life. Um, Not what everyone's story would be with alcoholism. I mean, I think he definitely had his rock bottom would not be the same as other people's rock bottom. I mean, he was a doctor. He had a very, privileged life in a lot of ways, as, anyone with a really good career does. So, it's not like he was, laying in the street. He was, but it's the same disease. He was doing all the same things. He was hiding the alcohol. He was, finding ways to go out and get alcohol and drink it before he started work and before people knew. And the fact that he was an emergency room doctor and did that job, drunk a good portion of the time kind of makes me a little afraid. But, I'm sure it happens more than we really know. So it was a fascinating story. It's just, I almost think it's a story that may have been better if he had let someone else tell it for him, just because he's not a writer, he's a doctor, right? And doctors do tend to be a little more clinical. But still, it was good, and I would give it 3.5, rounded up to 4. The last one, no, not quite the last one. The next one was Lost and Found in Lunenburg by Jane Doucette. And I did mention it a bit before in one of my other videos that I was reading it at the time. And it was pretty good. It was this woman named Rose. She had lost her husband unexpectedly. He was riding his bicycle, I believe, and was hit by a car. So he passed away long before he should have. She was in her 50s, I believe, and I think he was as well. And so then she has to come to grips with being a widow. She decides she has, friends and things in Lunenburg, which is part of Nova Scotia. And I don't know how she finds herself there in the first place. Maybe I can't remember. I don't know if the woman had come to her or she'd went down to Lunenburg for a brief moment or what. But anyway, she gets offered this sex shop in Lunenburg that this woman has been running, but now she's thinking of retiring, doing other things. So she wants Rose to take over the store. Well, Rose just in a Rose is feeling, very much like, I don't know what to do with my life now. This person I've lived with, a good portion of my life, he's gone. I just don't know what comes next. So she decides to do it. She's not sure if she should, but she decides to anyway. So she packs up. She has 2 dogs. She packs them up too. They all move to Lunenburg. Her sister is not crazy about the idea and thinks that she's lost her mind, and and Rose says like, well, maybe I have, but I'm doing this. So she moves to Lunenburg, and everything is new and different, and she spends a lot of time talking. She has the urn of ashes of her husband, and she spends a lot of time talking to it every morning, and talking to her dogs, and trying to make friends there. And the people in the shop are not so sure they want someone new. Like, what small towns can be like sometimes. It's like, okay, this person's an outsider, even though apparently she grew up in the area, but still she's come from away, and they're just not really sure. So it's her trying to kind of get her life back on track. Now, the only thing that she has a cousin, May, who is she's lovely. She's a great part of the story. She's a real quirky character. She helps with the local rescue, and she's got a lot of personality. So I really like her. The only thing I didn't care for in the story, and no judgment on anyone, but Rose ends up sleeping with someone not that long after her husband dies. Like, I feel like it was just a few months. It's one of those, didn't mean anything, just had to, feel okay, I guess. But from my point of view, it's like, I can't even imagine that. Like, I'm, deeply in love with my husband, and if something happened to him, I just, can't even imagine. So, and I've seen other people who have lost their spouse and can't imagine them doing that either. So, I don't know. That part kind of struck me a little bit the wrong way. But otherwise, it was, and that was only like a one night thing. Otherwise, it's definitely her just trying to continue on with her life and how she's going to navigate being a widow. So it was quite good. I'd probably give it a 3.5, rounded up to 4 as well. So the last one is the last one is called Public Anchovy 1. So it was the person. It's by Mandy Quigley, and the woman in it, and I want to say her name's. I couldn't have had two Maddies, could I? No, I can't remember her name. Anyway, you know what I'm like with names. So anyway, she's a caterer, and she is asked to cater this 20s type prohibition party. And, she's all for that. She's trying to build her catering business, and, she's excited to do it and stuff. The night, of course, that she has to do it, there turns out to be a bit of a storm. So she has a hard time, kind of getting there. And then as she's on her way with some of her crew, the woman who's hosting the party calls. And it's supposed to be, I think, to help out the library. So the woman who's hosting the party calls and says that this woman wants this crazy pizza. Like, she has all these allergies, and she wants a pizza that doesn't have gluten, it doesn't have tomatoes, it doesn't have. There was like a list. It was like a big list, and because they were making pizzas, and she's like, okay, like, I don't know how I'm gonna make this. Like, I'm already on my way to you, and this is something I'd have to kind of research and really do a good job on. And so anyway, the woman begs her. Fine, she goes back home. She gets the stuff that she feels she needs, and they head out again. So once they're there, and she's got this pizza made, and she's, got the hors d'oeuvres and everything made, and everything's, seems to be going well, but she's starting to hear a lot of conversations that sound a little suspicious, and this one guy comes to her and tells her all these kind of cryptic things, and she's not really sure what's going on. And then, of course, someone ends up dead, and she and her catering staff are kind of in the middle of all this. And there's a big storm, and some people can't get out. So it's very much like, feels very much like Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, where it's all a very closed case where everyone everyone that could be the murderer is there in that house. So anyway, it was very interesting. One of the cutest parts is she also has this cat named Butterball, who's very food motivated and a little chubby. Okay, a lot chubby, and so listening to her talk about Butterball and things, and some of his antics are really cute too. So really enjoyed that one. I would give that one a 5-star. I don't think I'm that easy of a marker. I just think I've gotten really fortunate this month. So we've got a lot of really good ones. So those were what I read for the rest of November. And so we're getting near the end, far enough near the end that I wasn't sure how many more I could read, if any. I start back to work today, so chances are there's not going to be a lot of reading time. But December's coming, so I've got a list together of what I want to read for December, or what I'm hoping to read for December. So I'll be back soon with that. But for now, that is the wrap up for November, for Nonfiction November. And so I hope everybody has a great day. I'm going to go finish my coffee and try to get my voice in the right form for work. And I'll talk to everyone soon. Bye-bye.